And now I have the pleasure to speak with Dr. Irit Idan, who is the E.V.P. for Research and Development at Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. We're at a conference about future med. Rafael is an advanced defense system company. I assume that many of our audience do not know Rafael in this context. Could you a little bit tell us about Rafael?
Yeah, I will. I'll be happy to do that. Thank you, Nimrod. Well, Rafael is the third largest defense company in Israel. We have a worldwide reputation for our cutting-edge solution for the defense market. Our products such as Iron Dome or Trophy are used by Israeli Defense Forces, the US Army, and the British Army as well. Rafael was established 72 years ago up north, in the north part of Israel. We have over 8,000 employees working on different parts of the engineering and the science world. And through the years, recognizing our extraordinary achievement, we received over 52 Israeli Defense Awards. I know a number that cannot be matched by any other company in the country.
You know, as Israelis, we admire Rafael for what you've done for defense. But I think very few of us would think of Rafael in the context of medicine. How Rafael is connected to medicine?
Well, the world of medicine is no different to Rafael. I'm holding here in my hand Pilcam. I guess some of the people in the audience know it. Well, actually, this is a pill that you swallow, and it's a miniature camera that takes pictures while going through our digestive system. Well, this is actually a spin-off of one of Rafael's core technologies, an electro-optic missile seeker. So what you have here inside is a very unique electro-optic camera that takes the picture while we're here. So this was the first, if not, I think, the very first successful leg that Rafael had in the medicine. Afterwards, we have Medingo, which was an insulin pump, and other products as well in the medicine world as well.
That's fascinating, and certainly as we discuss bioconvergence and how you take domains of robotics, engineering, AI, and adapt them into biology to bring solutions, that's a fascinating example. But I want to take you to the human side of it. COVID-19, sometime in February 2020, we understand that COVID-19 is going to change our world and that there is a new challenge we are facing. I guess there is a management meeting or a board of directors meeting at Rafael, and you understand that the world of yesterday is not the world of today anymore, and the challenge is no longer defense. It's a new challenge. What's happening in such a meeting at Rafael?
Well, I'm not sure it's just in Rafael. I think it's all over Israel. The DNA of the Jewish people, of the Israeli people, is always, in time of trouble, coming together. It's always to get the best of us. So the same thing happened in Rafael and in other companies in Israel. We were sitting, and suddenly I'm getting hundreds and hundreds of ideas that coming from our employees wanted to work and help the country in facing this pandemic crisis. So from the beginning, I set only two rules. Okay? A, it has really answered a problem that the medical staff in the hospital had. And B, we have to finish the development of that product within 3 to 4 weeks so it can be implemented in the hospital as well.
So it's like a real-life hackathon.
It's a real-life hackathon working together with the hospital. So I remember at the beginning, me and my team, we were traveling in hospital. We went in a coronavirus ward. We talked to the doctor, we talked to the nurses, we talked to all the medical staff, try to figure out what are the real problems that they're facing. I remember one Saturday, I was in a Zoom with one of the doctors in the Rambam hospital, and she put us in her pocket. She went into the corona wing, and for 90 minutes, I was watching what she was doing, what are the problems that she is facing, and trying to figure out how can we help her using our technologies that are coming from the defense world.
So I understand the process is the following. You first sort for the problems.
True.
You need to understand with the hospitals or with the ones who are facing the problems, what kind of problems they're facing. And then you need to go home and see how your technology can be adapted for such problems to provide a solution which, as you stated, has to be immediate and applied to the field without any regulatory process.
True, it was like that.
So-
but it was much faster because while we were traveling with her in her pocket, we already got the idea of what we needed. So the first thing was we need to limit the amount of times that the medical staff has to go into the corona wing. For example, they have to get dressed, they have to undress themselves. It's a complicated procedure that really exposed the medical staff. And we try to figure out ways of how to help them by understanding what kind of task they have. For example, well, they're going into the ward to give food and medicine. So we took a TEMI robot that were used in Israel, and we just add to that using our call technology in computer vision, in communications, and in other stuff. Add to that to the robot. So now the robot could go in the hospital. It can deliver the food. It can deliver the medicine. The medical staff remain behind. The robot itself can navigate itself autonomously through the beds. One of those robots is now, a few of them, actually, not one, 4 of them are now working in Hadassah, in Jerusalem, in Shaarei Tzedek. And what they ask us to do is to do the communication between the people that outside the family and the ones that are ill. Well, there are research saying that even those that are under sedation and things like that, it's very important for them to hear their loved one voice. So we created this kind of the communication between them using this robot.
That's fascinating. You're taking core technology in robotics. You don't need to do any adaptation which would require a medical device certification,
True.
but you apply on top the wisdom of computer vision and the analytics on top in order to provide now a solution not in the defense field anymore, but for caregiving and communication with the ones that need.
Whatever the problem is, we told the hospital there are now around 30 kinds of robots wandering around in corona wings in hospital in Israel. Whatever the problem the medical staff has, we are sitting with them on a weekly basis and giving their solution for that.
I know that there was another challenge that was very common at the corona time. It's the problem of exposure of the medical staff. That the medical staff was exposed to aerosol and the breathing of the patients, and many were looking for solutions that can help the medical staff not to get exposed and infected. I understood that, again, Rafael came with some adaptation of existing technology,
True.
now to engineering to provide a solution. Could
That's
you
right.
share with us a little
Well,
bit?
the problem is that those who are under open ventilator system, they have an aerosol of the virus around their mouth like that. So what we did, we took the gas mask that we have from, what was it? The Iraq War, the first Iraq War, and this mask was built for the one that had beer. So it's like an airtight container. And we make the adaptation to use it with the ventilator machines. So actually what we create is like a closed room around the man, around the patient, and allow him to use the ventilator, but not exposing the surrounding to that. Well, actually, some of the doctors who saw this solution immediately asked, well, it's good for them, but it's also good for us. So we had some of the doctors in the Carmel Hospital in Haifa using this for their own use to prevent their own...
That's an incredible story. I also heard another story about Rafael, which was fascinating, that you took technology that is used at the field, in the battlefield of thermal imaging,
True.
That used many times in order to sort targets in the field, and adapted it for the challenge of mass actually analyzing or mass sensing of the community for thermal problems. Could you share a little bit with us about this solution and how it was adapted?
Yeah, one of Rafael's subsidiary companies called Opgal is developing thermal camera, very simple one. And from the beginning, we knew that this corona pandemic is not like the SARS. Well, there There is a 2 weeks long time until you get all the symptoms, and you could have people walking with having a fever. And he wanted to prevent those people from entering public places. So using our technologies in optical imaging together with Opgal thermal camera, we were able to produce a camera that you put it at the entrance to any public places and measure the heat of the people that are moving in. I remember the first day that we put it in Bnei Zion Hospital, and there was an elderly lady coming in, and we had the manager of the hospital standing with us, looking at the camera, and he immediately looked at her and says, "Excuse me, lady, you have a fever, go to the emergency room." And she says, "I don't have fever, I just came for my eye check." And he told her, "No, ma'am,
Amazing.
you have fever, go immediately to emergency room." She didn't have corona, but she did have fever. So this one is actually implemented at the gates of Rafael. So today when I want to go in to Rafael, I go through that, and that checks my temperature.
Very fascinating. We understood that another challenge that was very dominant at the pandemic time was the shortage of production. That many companies that had solutions like respiratory machines or other solutions which are and pumps which were necessary for the hospital could not just meet the production challenges. I understand that Rafael is a company that has high volume production lines and a lot of experience in production optimization, also came up with some solutions how to reutilize machines for more than one patient, but also how to expedite production processes. Could you share with us a little bit about this perspective of...
Yeah. Well, in terms of ventilator, we did two things. We adopted a very small company in Israel that is building ventilators, FDA-approved ventilators. Usually, it used to do like 30 ventilators per month. And then she received an order from the Ministry of Health in Israel, please provide us with 1,000.
Wow.
Well, it's a small company. It's very difficult for such a company. Its name is Flight Medical to really produce this enormous amount of machine. Therefore, we helped her in the production line. We didn't do that ourselves. We helped her with our production lines to do that machine. We solved their problem. For example, they have problem with the electromagnetic compatibility. So we took the parts that they have problem with, and we brought them back to Rafael into our labs. And you can see Iron Dome missiles on one side and ventilators on the other side. And we have to solve this problem, and we did it. Within 24 hours, they had a solution that they were working on it for a couple of months. The other thing we had is while working with a doctor from Hadassah emergency room, and she told us, well, we are the doctor, we used to work with certain types of ventilator. It's very crucial that the doctor in emergency cases know the machine that he is working. So she said, I rather work with one ventilator and want that this type of ventilator will be used by more than one people. So we developed together with her adaptive splitter for the ventilators where you can use it on more than one patient, and you have a control on all the parameters that this ventilator is used.
And this does not require any FDA approval or any medical device?
We use only the regular medicine component in that respect. It was not used in Israel, but like all of our development that we did through the Corona time, I send them to the world. I send them to all of Rafael agency in the world. I put them in the open the web and tell, well, everyone who wants it is more than welcome to use it. And 2 weeks ago, we received a letter from Chile that is suffering quite drastically now from the corona, when they want to thank us. They got the blueprints of this adaptive splitter, and they use it now in hospital. They have a really shortage of ventilator, and this is the solution that they are using. We just shipped it to India and to other places.
There's another perspective in what you're telling is this kind of like open source approach.
It is.
Which is certainly not common for the defense industry, but here I understand you took a very different approach. You opened up all your portfolio of innovation that is relevant. As you're saying, the blueprint is in the open and saying it's here for everybody to utilize.
Yes. Well, this is a crisis. It's a world crisis. We have to find the benefits of what we can give back to the world. If you save one people, it's an amazing. I remember this doctor writing for me when she heard about it, and she says, you know, I'm saving in the emergency room every day 1 or 2 person. What you did here with this adaptive splitter is going to change the world of medicines. So you should be so proud of your people. And I'm really, really, really proud of them. They did an amazing work.
Irit, it's not only that you brought innovation to the world at a time of need, I understand it also opened up new diplomatic relations, a new actually international relationship we didn't have before. I understand that you signed an agreement with the United Emirates for the first time, an Israeli defense company, in order to co-develop or to work together on a plan. Could you share with us this historic moment?
It was an amazing moment for me last week when we signed an MOU with G42, a company from the United Emirates. And it was like, for me, a dream come true. We can use together our knowledge and our technologies to work on things for the humanity. It's not for the defense, it's for the humanity. And we, and I'm guessing the other company as well, looking forward for this collaboration. It was truly an inspiring moment.
It seems Shimon Peres' vision of diplomacy through innovation and technology. Thank you very much, Irit. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.